baby.
Heck no, baby. Got him. 2024 is dead. It's gone. It's been killed by the monster we all know as the passage of time. 2024 was a year filled with negativity and one of the worst years in recent memory, and is something we all collectively left behind without looking back. 2024 sucked. At least, that's what everyone else is saying, but I don't know. I kind of liked it. Yeah, I mean, the year did suck. Everything I just said was true. This year took my glorious King James Earl Jones away from me, and for that it can never be truly forgiven. But also in 2024, I watched, played, read, and just experienced a lot of really great stuff. And I kind of want to talk about some of said stuff. So yeah, baby, we're reviving 2024. It's back for a time, like maybe like an hour. I don't know. I don't usually do crap like this because I kind of like to let my opinions on things sizzle on the grill for a while before dropping a video screaming from the rooftops what I think about something that my opinion will almost certainly change on. But there was a lot of art I engaged with last year that I kind of really want to talk about, but not enough to make full videos on them. So that's right, baby, we're in for a little bit of a variety hour. I'm gonna talk about a lot of different shit. So if you end up fast forwarding and skipping through the video, I'm not gonna be offended, alright? It's okay. Except you, Geo. You're gonna sit here and watch this whole thing, and I'll know if you didn't. 2024 was such an interesting year for movies. Dune 2 was fantastic. I had a ton of fun with Furiosa. Sometimes I Think About Dying was a wonderfully sincere look at depression and the first good movie Daisy Ridley's been in 7 years. Civil War and Alien Romulus converted me to being a certified Spainy soldier. Venom came out and Sonic 3 was not good, but even that's okay. It got me to go back and replay a bunch of the older Sonic games, and for that, I am thankful. But there are a handful of movies from last year that I feel like I have more to say about than just, this movie was good. And I kind of want to talk about them a little more in depth, starting with my personal favorite of the year, Trap is a good-ass movie, and if you don't like it, you're stupid. I was not expecting to like this movie as much as I did. I have never seen a single M. Night movie in my entire life, and I wasn't really expecting this to be the first. But the thing about me is that I'm a little bit of a serial killer connoisseur. If you give me a piece of fiction that follows a person who enjoys the act of murder, I'm probably gonna watch it. Trap is a movie that follows a serial killer known as the Butcher attending a concert with his daughter, but he discovers that this concert is a trap set up by the police to catch him. It's a pretty interesting concept, and once I heard it, I had to see this movie. I think the best thing you can do with the subject matter of serial killers is to make a dark comedy, and this movie might be one of the funniest movies I watched all year. The trailers kind of tried to pass it off as a little bit scary. It has all the sound effects and the kind of music you'd expect from a horror trailer. And they make Cooper look like a legitimately scary killer. And then the actual movie's a fucking Bugs Bunny cartoon. There were honestly points where I thought the police were gonna look off screen and see a Cooper-shaped hole in the wall. And on the subject of Cooper Trap, he's a solid contender for one of my new favorite fictional serial killers. I love the moments near the end of the movie where he's just full-on masked down, running on pure rage. He's trampling people, he tries to gouge a guy's eyes out. He's like a fucking wild animal who will chew off their own paw for survival. But I also love that on the flip side, you can tell that he genuinely does value, and maybe even in his own way, love his family. Throughout the whole concert, he does genuinely want to make sure that his daughter is enjoying herself almost as much as he wants to escape. This movie's not even 2 hours long, and by the time it ends, I feel like I know everything there is to know about Cooper. He almost feels like a character who's been around forever. One of my friends walked out of this movie saying that it feels like the series finale of a TV show you've never seen. And even though I'm pretty sure he meant that in a more negative sense, I don't think there's any better way to describe this movie. We're introduced to Cooper essentially at the end end of his story, debatably. And I can see why people would be kind of put off by that, but I think what these people fail to realize is that if we actually had seen the things Cooper's done, we probably wouldn't like him that much. And in turn, we wouldn't really want to see him escape. And then the whole movie would just fall flat. But instead, because we don't see all that stuff, Cooper's just a goofy, fun girl dad. And I don't know, I think the movie just works better that way. But of course it also helps that Josh Hartnett is doing a really good job in this movie. He understands the assignment of playing a soulless, bloodthirsty serial killer, and equally understands how someone like this would awkwardly try to blend in with humanity. I think his performance is probably the best thing on display here. And if the Academy weren't a bunch of pussies, he'd be up for Best Actor. This movie is crazy. On paper, it shouldn't work. This is simultaneously a concert movie featuring extended sequences of Selika's music, while also being a serial killer manhunt thriller. And both of those mesh insanely well. It's actually unbelievable. But I think the more unbelievable thing is that people don't like this movie. I was shocked to find that out. After watching it, I kind of thought that we were all in agreement that this movie is a masterpiece. But apparently not. I feel like everybody has those friends or family members who just inexplicably see every new movie that comes out. They're on that newest Amazon Prime original like it's the first movie that's come out in like a decade. And whenever you ask this person about the newest movie they watched, they're like, yeah, it was pretty good. With every movie is pretty good. Me personally, I know a ton of people like this. And when I ask them about Trap, I'm met with, oh, is that the concert one? Yeah, that was dumb. What? Am I just insane? The people's bias against M. Night Shyamalan needs to be studied. He made a bad Avatar movie and millennials who are unable to grow up just decided that they hate him forever now. And that pisses me off because a lot of the critiques I see for this movie don't even make any sense. I've seen a lot of people say that the acting in this movie is bad, and I'm sorry, it just isn't. People will hear a line like this.
Sorry, I just needed some air. There was an accident in the kitchen. I freaked out. A friend got burned.
And think it's bad acting. Meanwhile, the rest of us enlightened trap heads just realize that this is supposed to be funny. A lot of people target Selika specifically when they say this, and maybe I'm out of line, and maybe you're not ready to hear this. But I think a good part of that is just racism. I don't make the rules, that's just how I see it. And you know, if you think about it, this movie has stellar directing, lots of heart, campy yet hilarious writing, and was panned by critics and moviegoers on release. This is just Spider-Man 3. This movie is the modern Spider-Man 3 in every sense of the word. And I fucking love Spider-Man 3. I love it more than I love myself. Both are incredibly well-made movies that are clearly trying to be comedies that, despite not being very complicated, still manage to fly over the heads of critics and earn the label of being a bad movie, despite not being a bad movie. I think if Trap came out in the early to mid 2000s, people would see it as a beloved classic. But because it came out in big 2024, people hate it. And you know, as long as we're talking about the passage of time and people rejecting modernity in favor of their nostalgia, I guess we might as well talk about... The Substance is a movie that kind of came out of nowhere for me. I wasn't aware of its existence at all. I didn't see a single trailer or poster or fucking anything before its release. And then when it came out, it felt like it took the world by storm, and it immediately became a must-watch. I didn't really know what it was about. I knew it was horror adjacent. I knew there was a substance, but at the end of the day, I'm just a boy. I saw Margaret Qualley in that pink leotard and locked the fuck in. But I was pleasantly surprised at just how fucking amazing this movie is. The Substance is a movie about Elizabeth Sparkle, a middle-aged actress in Hollywood who's at the end of her run, which causes her to use a black market drug only known as the Substance. The Substance creates a perfect, younger, and more beautiful version of herself only known as Sue. The two have to share their time equally and can't be conscious at the same time. It's already kind of an insane premise, but it really only gets crazier from there. I kind of don't want to delve too far into this one because of how insane it gets. The end of this movie is so unbelievably insane that I encourage you to just watch it for yourself instead of listening to me talk about it. but I'm still gonna talk about it. This is such a fucking well-made movie. I love the horror genre, simply because it really pushes directors to become auteurs. It's a cheaper genre, so you can get away with a lot of crazy shit. And that's what this movie spends a good majority of its runtime doing. The movie looks fantastic. Probably the best shot movie of the year. Every shot in this movie looks like something I would want to hang on my wall. The practical effects and the makeup in this movie also just fucking blew me away. But I kind of knew this movie was gonna be nice to look at when I went in. But what I didn't know going in was how well this movie handles the themes of aging and insecurity. It's not exactly subtle, but considering how many edits and posts I see about Sue being a girl boss, I think if this movie tried to be subtle, we'd all be in danger. For how fantastical and absurd this movie is, the way it handles stuff like this is shockingly real. One of my favorite scenes in this movie is just the scene where Elizabeth gets ready to go on a date and wipes off and keeps redoing her makeup over and over again until she just gives up. And look, I know I'm only 20 and a man, but I get this. Every now and then, this movie will just drop the act and show you some real ass shit. And I think under the lens of this being a horror movie, that's probably the scariest thing about it. But overall, the thing I love most about this movie, out of everything it has to offer, is just how fucking angry it is. Director Coralie Farjah is so clearly fed up with Hollywood and modern body standards to a point where it almost feels violent. And I'm glad a movie with this much fiery passion not only exists, but exists so good. Once again, I am male, but I think everyone with young girls in their life will agree that this shit is getting out of control. The beauty standards that young girls have to look up to now are fucking unbelievable. And honestly, impossible. Margaret Qualley's perfect body in this movie isn't even real. That combined with the age demographic for makeup brands and other beauty-related businesses getting lower and lower by the day is leading to mental illness in young women skyrocketing. And I'm glad that the substance is daring to not only make such a loud and angry statement against this kind of thing, but also to do it with so much flair and cinematic charm. This and Trap are pretty much neck and neck for me when it comes to my favorite movie that released in 2024. But as far as my favorite actual experience with a movie I had in 2024, well, it might come out of left field, but... Batman! Everybody loves Batman. It comes free with being a person. I've always had a love for Batman. Maybe not as deep as some of the most crazed Batheads out there, but I've always had a soft spot for the Caped Crusader. But I've always felt like a bit of a fake fan. I've read like 3 Batman comics in my entire life, maybe 4. I've never played the Arkham games. I think the Dark Knight trilogy is good but not great. I have a strong dislike for the Tim Burton Batman movies. And for a while there, my favorite Batman adaptation was unironically Forest Fire 101. Honestly, it probably still is.
Robin, I said go to bed!
But through all these fake Bat fan-isms, I still like Batman. Hell, I love Batman. I've always had this yearning for a kind of Batman content that I could never quite describe. I like dark and gloomy Batman as much as anybody else, but I also like when he just lives in a cartoon world with insane people. And nothing ever quite gave me what I was looking for. And then one day out of the blue, me and one of my friends decided we were gonna get crossed and watch the Joel Schumacher Batman movies. Since I haven't seen them since I was a kid, and I barely remember anything about them. And look, there's a solid possibility that it's just the liquor talking, but both of these movies are fucking incredible. This whole time, this was the shit I've been yearning for. Growing up, all I was ever told was, oh, no, don't watch those other Batmans. Those are the bad ones. And I was just like, okay, and I would just play Lego Batman on the Wii by myself. But this whole time, you people were hiding gold from me. Also, I feel like I should mention that we watched these backwards. We watched Batman and Robin first, and then watched Batman Forever. I do not know why we did this. Jumping straight into Batman and Robin with the only expectations being vague childhood memories was like a fucking fever dream. Watching this shit almost fucking killed me. I'm not joking, I greened out while watching it. But even through the fog, I could still see that this movie has an insane amount of sauce. Everybody praises the Tim Burton movies for how gloomy and gothic they look and how perfect he is for Batman. But honestly, I think I like this shit more. Look at the scene from the start where Batman and Robin are fighting Mr. Freeze's goons. This shit is actually insane. I hate when people who have never read a comic book say things like, wow, this looks just like a comic book, because it usually just isn't true. The amount of comic book movies that actually look like comic books can be counted on one hand. And I honestly think this is one of those movies. Look at how there's like weird pink and purple lights that contrast with the blues of the ice. And there's also like weird strobe lights everywhere. There is literally no in-universe reason for it to look like this. And yet it does, because that's how this would be colored in a comic book. And the whole movie is like this. Every scene is bathed in these bright, contrasting neon colors, and the entire movie just looks like an amusement park. It's fucking awesome. And the movie doesn't just look great either. Insane, off-the-wall shit just keeps happening. Batman and Robin race out of the Batcave to go stop Mr. Freeze from robbing a museum. Alfred drops a generational white in his pants. They get to the museum and have to play hockey with his goons to get the diamond back that he's trying to steal. And then Mr. Freeze gets back in his car, which turns into a rocket ship. So he blasts into the sky, and Batman and Robin get on the rocket ship, blow it up with a bat bomb, and then fucking surf out of it like it's Sonic Adventure 2. And then you look at your watch, and you realize you're 12 minutes into this movie. This is the goofiest, most unserious movie ever made, and I love every second of it. I love everything about this movie. I love how goofy and stupid Bane is. He got that shit on, though. I love the music. I love Arnold as Mr. Freeze. I love Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy. I love how many ass shots of women and men there are. Hell, I even love the poster. Just look at it. It looks like an omnibus cover. It's just so Batman. So yeah, I think this is kind of one of the best movies ever made. And as each date passes, that opinion gets less and less ironic. But the only reason it's not the best movie of all time is because Batman Forever is the best movie of all time. Batman Forever is the tits. Sorry, liberals, but Batman Forever is the best Batman movie. I mean that shit. It has the same kind of vibe as Batman and Robin, but this one has a slight leg up because it's also good unironically. It's got a lot of great set pieces, some of the best Gotham City ever. Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face and Jim Carrey as Boner Boy are both doing fantastic jobs. But most importantly, this movie features Val Kilmer as Batman. And just to be hyperbolic for a second, Val Kilmer is the best Batman ever. Kilmer's Batman is the most multifaceted take on the character that's ever been played in live action. He can play the quiet, somber Bruce Wayne who still hasn't quite gotten over his trauma. He can play brooding, stoic, and serious Batman with what I would honestly say is the best live action Batman voice.
Bats aren't rodents, Dr. Meridian.
I prefer when Batman sounds a little more like this, and a little less like and Kilmer does a perfect blend of this, sounding stoic and deep with just a slight amount of rasp that has that Batman feel that you're looking for, which overall just gives him insane screen presence. But I think what's arguably the most important part of his performance is that he can also play snarky, funny asshole Batman. The concept of Batman being kind of silly has often been a point of discussion among Batman fans. And this shit can get heated. 1 second you're talking about Adam West doing the Batusi, and the next thing you know you're in a 6v1 outside of Bojangles. Some people think Batman needs to be dark and edgy at all times, never to even crack a joke or even smile. And then some people just want Batman to be a big goof who gets himself into the silliest predicaments with straight up Looney Tunes logic. But enlightened folk like myself know that Batman is allowed to be funny and goofy as long as everyone else is funnier and goofier. Like, Batman can be a big goofball in this movie, but he's never gonna match the Riddler's freak, or even Two-Face. And let's just face it, he's never gonna out-laundry Robin. So because of that, even when he is being kind of unserious, he still feels like the Batman we all know and love.
Women.
Oh yeah, that's Batman. But interesting enough, even though he's kind of a goof in this movie, the way he's shot in it feels more serious than the way they shoot Keaton in the Burton movies. Everybody knows about the infamous restrictions of the early Batman suits where Keaton can't move his fucking neck. And maybe it's a nitpick, but I'm sorry, I just can't take Batman seriously when he fucking looks like this. Huh? I'm sorry, I just can't get past it. It effectively ruins his Batman for me. And yeah, Kilmer's suits have this problem too. But Joel Schumacher realized that you can literally just shoot around it. Tim Burton, hailed as one of our most creative minds, didn't realize that you can just not film Batman when he turns his neck. Look at the way they shoot Batman in this movie. It is the most pure looking Batman ever. It probably helps that I already think this is the best live action Batsuit, but every shot of him in this movie just has big dick energy. Look at this fucking shot. This shit blew me away when we were watching this movie. I stood up. I launched myself out of the chair by pure drunk reflex and pointed at the fucking screen because I was that amazed. This shit looks biblical. It might be the best Batman shot ever. I couldn't tell you why it is, but it just is. It evokes such a pure emotion out of me. That is Batman. But the thing that really gives Kilmer the gold in the live action Batman competition that I feel can't really even be argued with is that he has a Robin. Robin got kind of blacklisted from being in Batman movies for no reason. Filmmakers are just scared of him. Oh, we can't have a guy in a red and green suit doing martial arts. It'll ruin the immersion of a man dressed like a bat doing martial arts. I think that's fucking stupid. Also, before you comment about Dark Knight Rises having Robin, that doesn't count. That's not Robin. So this Batman having Robin, having the best Batsuit, having a great Gotham, having silly villains, and really just feeling the most like Batman, make this not only a perfect Batman movie, but a perfect superhero movie. Also, Nicole Kidman's in this movie, and she's, yeah, I have to talk about Deadpool and Wolverine. I've expressed my distaste for the Deadpool movies on this channel more than once. I don't really think they're that funny anymore, and I kind of just think they're pretty overhyped because they're meta and say the fuck word. I straight up just don't like Deadpool 2. But I always figured I would see an inevitable MCU Deadpool 3. I think as a comic book fan, it's pretty hard not to be at least somewhat interested in seeing Deadpool finally get to interact with other superheroes beyond B-list X-Men. And I didn't even try to deny my interest in this movie once they said they were bringing Wolverine back. And to be honest, I've never really been the biggest fan of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine either. I don't think he's bad, the casting's just never really done it for me on a deeper level than, yep, that's movie Wolverine. So while I was always gonna see this movie, I never thought it was gonna change my life. I wasn't even sure that I was gonna like it. So July 26th came and I went and saw Deadpool and Wolverine. And 2 hours later, after the credits rolled, I took my leftover popcorn, I went home, and I sat down, and I thought to myself, I fucking loved that movie. Would I call this movie good? Well, I don't really know. Probably not, right? But I don't know, man. When I saw this movie, something just fucking activated inside of me. I felt like the Winter Soldier. This movie was just a fun comic book ride. I saw things that I like, and I had fun seeing those things that I like. I don't really go to Marvel movies anymore expecting something actually good, especially in these last few years. So if a Marvel movie is just a fun time at the movies these days, that's about as good as they can be. At my core, I just love the Marvel universe as a concept. So if I can just go have fun in it for 2 hours every once in a while, I'm a happy camper. So I'm sure you can imagine that seeing Wolverine finally wear the yellow and blue suit with the cowl turned me into a man that I thought was long gone. I look back on this movie really fondly, not because of really what it is, but more what it gave me. Deadpool and Wolverine was so fun, it made me fall back in love with Marvel as a whole, when my interest in the brand was at a career low. Of course, Spider-Man's my fucking guy, and I'll never not have interest in him, but as for literally every other Marvel character, I haven't really been that interested in that world for a few years now. But this movie gave me a true rebirth. After this movie came out, I was going fucking nuts. I was binging every MCU movie, Marvel Legacy movie, even the fucking animated ones. I was playing every Marvel game under the sun, and I read comics like my life depended on it. Truly nothing was safe from me. I was watching, reading, and playing anything I could get my hands on. I finally got around to watching X-Men 97 at this time. And man, that show is legitimately great. The second I finished watching it, I was recommending it to basically anyone who would listen. We finally got to see Cyclops and Rogue be cool fucking characters again, and for that, I think the show deserves every bit of praise it gets. I played a lot of that Midnight Suns game, which is a game I thought honestly looked offensively horrible. But to my surprise, that was also really good. It really scratched an itch for a big Marvel team-up story that I didn't even really know that I had. It's also probably one of the best Spider-Man adaptations ever. And man, I forgot just how much I love comics. I've read comics throughout my whole life, but never super religiously. Every now and then I'd read something, but it was never a constant thing in my life. But after seeing Deadpool 3, I finally caved in and bought Marvel Unlimited. And man, it was like supermarket sweep. I was reading pretty much anything I can get my hands on. I read some Deadpool, I read some Spider-Man, I read a lot of Black Widow for some reason. Even a little bit of Star Wars stuff too, but we don't gotta get into that right now. And during all this comic reading, I stumbled across what I would probably call my favorite comic I've ever read. Astonishing Spider-Man and Wolverine. It's only like 6 issues, but it's just such a fun story. I don't really want to say too much about it because it's a really fun read, but just know it's about Spider-Man, Wolverine, and time travel. If that doesn't sell you, then I think something's wrong with your brain. But probably the most insane thing that happened during this Marvel resurrection is that we finally got confirmation that Dr. Doom would be making his way to the big screen to fight the Avengers. And not only that, we found out the esteemed actor that would be playing him. Robert Downey Jr. Fuck! This is without a doubt one of, if not the most controversial thing Marvel has ever done. No matter who I talk to about this, nerd or not, it spawns a lengthy discussion. Everybody has some kind of strong opinion on this. And if you ask me how I feel about Robert Downey Jr.'s Victor Von Doom, well, I kind of need it. When I opened Twitter on that fateful Comic-Con night and saw the announcement of Avengers Doomsday starring Robert Downey Jr., I was intrigued, but not really excited. But then when I saw the video, this shit hit me like crack cocaine. Something about just seeing the man who ruled the MCU getting people that excited again shot me right back to that 2015 through 2019 Marvel hype. And that's something I never really thought I would see again. Post-Endgame, I was firmly of the opinion that Robert Downey Jr. should never go near the MCU ever again under any circumstances. He's my favorite MCU character, and I think he really has a compelling and nuanced character arc over the course of the Infinity Saga. And his ending was honestly so perfect that I never wanted to see him again. But honestly, I kind of think this is the only way that I would be able to accept it. A lot of people see this move as desperate and kind of shameless, and yeah, obviously it is. But I don't think Marvel's really in a place right now to be anything but desperate. So I can't sit here and act like it really bothers me all that much anyway. I'm automatically more interested in this than I was ever going to be in any Kang Dynasty, Major's controversy or not. And I also can't really force myself to be that upset over this movie potentially butchering the character of Dr. Doom either. Because honestly, the way I see it, the whole Doom thing feels more like a marketing trick than anything. I'm willing to bet money that this movie's Doom is just going to be a more edgy and extreme adaptation of Superior Iron Man than anything. The only reason they're using the name Doom is because you can't call a movie Avengers Superiority. And the idea of seeing Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark as the villain of an Avengers movie after spending an entire decade becoming its greatest hero is compelling to me. So yes, I am an RDJ Dr. Doom truther. New mask, same task. Astro Bot is fucking phenomenal. I'm not even gonna try and dance around it. Everybody has sung this game's praises to the point of embarrassment, but it really is that good. I love the little Astro's Playroom tech demo game that came with the PS5. It really blew my mind on multiple occasions.
Oh my god! Oh my god! The mom, get in here!
So when I saw that Team Asobi was making an entire full-length game in this engine, I thought,
Astro Bot!
Astro Bot is living, breathing, and vibrating proof that in the year of our Lord 2024, you can still make a great 3D platformer. This game is gushing with ideas. It feels like every new level, a new mechanic gets introduced. You can get monkey arms, you can fly with the robot bulldog, you can get a VR headset that slows down time, you can punch people with frog arms, you can become a mouse and shrink down to baby mode, you can become Kratos. Astro Bot is one of those games that really makes me appreciate how important the medium of gaming really is. It feels like a gigantic celebration of how far the medium has come while still embracing its roots. A lot of people don't like how the game is a quote-unquote PlayStation jerkfest, but honestly, I think people who say that just haven't played this game, because it is so much more than that. I mean, yeah, sure, there are a ton of cameos. What the fuck? Crash Bandicoot? Vib Ribbon? In the year of our Lord, 2025? They got Spider-Man in this game? What the fuck? They got OJ in this shit? But I love that all the characters included in this game aren't just there for a cheap Point and Soy Jack cameo. They all have built-in homages to the games they come from, and it feels less like a cheap nostalgia tug and more like seeing an old friend with a new twist. But out of any of the characters in this game, the one I fell in love with the most is Astro himself. I love everything about him. He feels like such a well-established character, despite never actually saying anything. He's such a little ray of sunshine. I love the little noises he makes. I love the way he moves and the way he interacts with all the other bots. And from a pure character design standpoint, I mean, come on. I really don't like Nendoroids that much, but the Astro Bot one had me playing games with my wallet. Look, if I won the lottery, I wouldn't tell anybody, but there would be signs. I hate the new trend of having to make every big mascot just a cute little guy. I think it lost its charm really fast. And the whole cutesy appeal doesn't really work on me most of the time. As far as I'm concerned, Baby Peanut can starve. Fuck that guy. But Astro Bot is he's just so goddamn cute. He's so adorable, it makes me want to violently sob. Look at his little wave. That's my baby boy. Spoilers! But when he dies at the end of the game, I felt something real. Even though it's an obvious fake out and he was definitely going to be okay, I was legitimately heartbroken. I've only had Astro for a day and a half, but if anything ever happened to him, I would kill everyone in this room and then myself. A lot of people like to call him an industry plant, and to those people, I just want to ask, can you fight? I legitimately want Astro Bot in the next Smash Brothers game. I think with just this one game, a tech demo, and a VR game, he's earned his place with the gaming legends. He was stuck in shovelware garbage for like a decade, and then once he locked in for his first real game, he got a Game of the Year win on Spawn. I'm sorry, that is just GOAT behavior. And look, I'm not picking sides or anything, but if that next 3D Mario game is anything but a masterpiece, that boy's in trouble. Personally, I hope we get like 40 more Astro Bot games. I am locked in for life. No matter where Astro goes next, I'll be there along with him. Absolute video game. As for other games I played in 2024, there's not really a whole lot to talk about. I'm not back to full-time gamer yet, but there is a decent amount that I got up to. I started the year off with Metal Gear Solid, which starts a series that I've been dying to get into for a long time. I really liked it. It did take some time to get used to the game because I'm Gen Z. But overall, I had a great time with it. Jedi Survivor. A fun entry into the Star Wars universe, but honestly, I didn't really love it that much. I think the Jedi games get a lot of well-deserved praise for their hype moments and big character cameos. But outside of that, these games are fucking boring. I like Cal and Marin and all the other characters, but I just feel like a lot of the story in these games just involve way too much dicking around and not really in the fun way. I love big moments like the Vader boss or the Boba Fett cameo or the final boss with Bode. That part with the TIE fighters on the speeder was fucking the best shit ever. But I think a lot of this game is just fine, that is held together by the glue of these big moments. As for the big N, I didn't really play that many Nintendo games this year either. I picked up that Mario vs. Donkey Kong remake and had a fun enough time with it. I've never played the original, so I felt more incentive to buy this, but yeah. Fun enough time, but it's rotting on the shelf for the rest of eternity, I fear. And then one week in the middle of like April or some shit, I got really into Wii Fit for some reason. I had never really played those games either, but I was just bored and wanted to play with a baby's toy for a while. But man, those games are good as fuck. All three of them. The Wii U one goes under the radar, but that one is just as good. Resident Evil 5. The second Resident Evil game I've ever actually finished. I played through the entire game with my friend 1UpTheShroom, and this is honestly some of the most fun I've had with a game maybe ever. I like the gritty, serious horror remake aesthetic as much as the next freak, but I also kind of miss when these games were just The Matrix. This game feels more like an action movie than a horror movie, and I honestly think I like that more than spooky, scary Resident Evil. Just let me fucking punch rocks with my bare hands again. That's that good shit. Marvel Rivals is the only true new 2024 release besides Astro Bot that I actually played, and I had a lot of fun with it. I've never been super into the Overwatch style of gameplay, so I'm not as addicted to this game as everybody else is right now, but I'm glad it exists. We finally have a Marvel game that has absolutely no restrictions because of brand synergy or weird studio beef. So we can finally have a game with representation for every corner of the Marvel universe. I think the last time the Marvel universe was this pure was Lego Marvel Superheroes. And a lot of these characters are better adapted in this than they are in the movies. Some of them are just straight up their best adaptations ever. And also Spider-Man. He's in it.
You get a weapon, you get a weapon, you get a weapon!
2024 was the year of TV shows for me. I don't watch a lot of shows because I feel like I'll get really into something and commit to it really hard, and then once I finish it, I just want nothing to do with anything, and then I don't watch another show for like a year. But something was in the air in 2024, man. I was putting shows away consistently. I watched more last year than I ever have. Invincible. At the start of last year, I finally decided I was gonna get on Invincible, and I'm gonna be that guy for a second, but I think this show's a little overrated. It's not bad, there's a ton of great stuff in it. Everybody knows the big story moments because they're iconic and, well, amazing. But I kind of just think this show just doesn't really have the sauce most of the time. I don't really care to watch Invincible fight the big villain of the week when the animation just sucks. I could make this myself. And speaking of Mark, I hate to say this, but I think I find this show a lot more interesting when he's not in it. I find characters like Omni-Man, Adam Eve, and even Alan the Alien way more interesting. The fucking Adam Eve special is the best episode of the entire show. Now, I haven't seen season 3 yet, and maybe it's like the best shit ever, but I don't know. I'll probably watch it when it's done. The Bear. I feel pretty confident in saying The Bear is probably the best show on TV right now. I have been recommending this show to people for years. You'd think I was on payroll. Season 3 came out this year, and it was met with some of the most confusing reception I've ever seen. I didn't watch it right when it came out since I was too busy spending $400 fucking dollars on Mighty Mugs. But all I saw before I watched it were people saying how Season 3 sucks, and that they broke their perfect streak. And guys, it's literally good. I have no idea what the hell you're all talking about. I'll say one thing, it's not as good as season 2, but I also don't even think it even dropped in quality. It's just not possible to top a season that has the episodes Fishes and Forks back to back. The show still has that heart, soul, and passion that made it so beloved in the first place, and to be honest, I still can't wait for season 4. Sweet Pea is so goddamn underrated. This show is kind of like if You was good. It's the same kind of concept and vibe, but I find the character of Joe Goldberg kind of insufferable in a way I just don't with Rhiannon Lewis. It's really hard not to fall in love with this character. I don't really want to say too much about this show because I think it's best if you go in knowing as little as possible. The ending of this show shocked me to my core, and the fact that I cared as much as I did about these characters after only 6 episodes really speaks to its quality. The Boys Season 4 sucked. I don't really feel like I need to go that in depth on this one. It just sucked. I honestly forgot it even came out. This was such a last-minute inclusion in this video. I'm still gonna watch the next season because it's The Boys, and I do still like The Boys, but Season 4 was just one of the most sluggish and uneventful seasons of TV I've seen in quite some time. I still have a soft spot in my heart for a lot of these characters, so I hope they'll pull it together for the final season and do the story justice. But I think this show's shock factor and the lack of subtlety is just kind of starting to run its course. And to be honest, I'm ready for it to end. But out of any of the shows I watched last year that I really feel like I need to talk about, there's only really one that comes to mind. And honestly, it's been a long time coming. I love Dexter. Like, a lot. I haven't really gotten the chance to talk about Dexter on the channel yet because I just haven't really had the time. But just let it be known, I don't fuck around about this Dexter shit. It's my favorite show of all time, and you can probably tell. If you go back and watch most of my videos, there's a pretty good chance that I use Dexter footage at some point. I didn't watch it for the first time last year, so maybe this is cheating, but I did watch it for the 4th and 5th time, so I think it counts. I do want to make a real big Dexter video someday, so I don't want to go too in-depth on the show right now. But just to clear the air, seasons 1 through 4 are the peak of the show, and so is 5. People don't include 5, but it's honestly just as good as the others. And if you disagree, I think less of you. Seasons 6 through 8 are doo-doo poopy garbage, and if you ignore some of its wacky writing choices, Dexter New Blood is very good for 9 of its 10 episodes. Dexter Morgan is without a doubt my favorite fictional character of all time. I don't even think it's remotely close anymore. I have quite literally never felt more seen in a fictional character ever. And that's not some OMG Sigma male literally me bullshit. I just think this character is a lot more nuanced than he gets credit for, and I'll get into that in a minute. I don't kill people, guys! Look, I don't really think I have a god complex or anything, but I honestly think that I am superior to every other Dexter fan on the planet. I simply know ball. Don't ever try to debate Dexter with me, alright? I simply know more than you. Watching Dexter on the first go-around a few years ago honestly hit me harder than anything I've ever seen in my entire fucking life. Something just snapped in me when I watched this show. To put it in perspective, the last time something took over my brain this bad was Star Wars. So yeah, it's officially that bad. And you may be asking why I'm talking about the show in this video if I didn't really watch it for the first time last year, but that's because it got extremely popular out of fucking nowhere. After season 8 shit the bed, this show just kind of exited the public consciousness. And then when New Blood shit the bed harder, it's like this show just got fucking wiped from the memory of the masses. And now because of TikTok, it's like it never left. And man, it's been bad. The amount of socially inept right-wing high schoolers I've seen try to turn this character into the next Patrick Bateman and completely miss the point of the show is insane. But because of this surge in popularity, we have gotten confirmation of 2 new spin-off shows. Dexter Original Sin, a prequel show based on Dexter's early years, and Dexter Resurrection, a direct sequel to New Blood. Somehow. But we're not there yet. The show's not out. All I can do is just sit here and salivate over what little set pictures we have. But what I do want to talk about is Dexter Original Sin, because I have a lot of thoughts on this show. Starting off with my first major thought, I don't really like it. Now, we only have 1 season so far, but I'm willing to bet money that we'll get another. And maybe it'll improve, but yeah, this show doesn't really do it for me. If I was going to critique this show like a real person, I would probably talk about how this show is paced way too fast, and how it doesn't let scenes breathe for even a second. And I'd probably talk about how horrible the show looks visually. Mind you, the original show looks like this. I'd also probably touch on how a lot of the characters don't really get a lot to do and are kind of just set dressing. A lot of valid criticisms that sound like they came from someone normal. But I am not normal. Dexter as a show is burned into my brain so hard. I think about it all the time, and when I'm not thinking about it, I'm watching it. Hell, I'm watching it right now. And this show just kind of doesn't click with the original. For one thing, it has a metric shitload of retcons. And normally, I don't really let that kind of thing bother me, but because of just how burned into my brain the original Dexter is, I feel like I get taken out of this show so often because of how much they changed from the original. Like the episode where Dexter accidentally gets into Deborah's pot brownies and gets high out of his fucking mind. No doubt a fun moment and a highlight of the show, but I could never really get fully invested because I can't help but think back to the original show when Dexter says,
I've always been curious to try. Do you have any weed?
It also bugs me a lot that this show is completely ignoring Early Cuts, the far superior Dexter prequel series that no one talks about, even though it's awesome. This series showed things like Dexter getting his boat, and how he inevitably found his preferred method of body disposal. But that's all gone now. And you could argue that this isn't fair criticism, but I think if you couldn't make a prequel show without changing all this lore, maybe you shouldn't have made a prequel show at all. But I think without a doubt, the biggest sin of the show, some would argue the original sin of this show, is that it doesn't understand Dexter. My litmus test for if you understand the character of Dexter Morgan is how you feel about Harry Morgan. Harry sucks. The original show, at least the first chunk, is dedicated to Dexter slowly getting feelings. He goes from a cold-hearted psychopath to a sociopath that can feel certain things. At least, that's what it's about if you're dumb as fuck. Dexter was never a psychopath or a sociopath, so miss me with that bullshit. Dexter is autistic and traumatized, and Harry Morgan, being the evil piece of shit that he is, weaponized this and turned Dexter into his own personal vengeance machine against the legal system. It's not that Dexter never had these feelings, it's that he was being gaslit by his own father for his entire life into believing he didn't have any. But he does. The show throws this in your face every chance it gets, and people still don't get it. Early Dexter was basically a Harry Morgan hate piece, so I find it kind of strange and honestly a little infuriating that Original Sin is largely in defense of Harry. Which is weird because it's the same creative team. I think the worst offender of this comes in the first episode. The first episode is entirely dedicated to showing us Dexter's first kill, Nurse Mary. You know, that thing that we saw in episode 3 of the original show 19 years ago? And the way it's presented here is worse. Obviously, it's shot and paced worse, and it's overall just less exciting than it was in the original, but they also retconned the shit out of it. In the original show, Nurse Mary is poisoning Harry by overdose, so he sicks Dexter on her to save his own life. Harry uses Dexter's urges for his own personal gain. It's pretty clear cut. But now Original Sin shows Dexter purposely letting Nurse Mary poison Harry further so he'll be forced to give Dexter permission to kill her. Showing now that Dexter, in a way, was behind everything. And that sucks. It sounds small, but the implications are massive. I feel as though the original show kind of portrays Dexter as the real victim of the story, when he himself doesn't really even know it. Which gave his character a real sense of tragedy and made him a lot more interesting than just serial killer. At his core, he's a character who likes to kill, but even deeper down, he hates the fact that he likes it. He wants nothing more than to just be normal like everyone else. But this one episode of Original Sin completely turns that around and shows that no, he actually just wants to do this. Which I think in theory kind of ruins the original show more than any bad ending ever could. And this is just one thing. There's a bunch of stuff like this in this show. Don't even get me fucking started on how they absolutely violated Brian. That's a whole nother can of worms. I would quite literally be here all day if we got into that. Okay, that's enough. No more Dexter. You're gonna have to wait for the actual video whenever this show decides to end for real. So, pretty much whenever Michael C. Hall decides to die. Look, I won't lie. 2024 was home to some of the darkest times of my life. And don't even get me started on 2023. I was in the 7th circle of hell. But last year, I learned a valuable lesson. There is light at the end of the tunnel. I made a lot of real mental progress, I met a lot of great people and formed a lot of important relationships, I got into new things, and finally learned how to truly take time for myself, and actually be able to exist in my own company without needing distractions. In terms of uploads, yeah, it was kind of a pathetic year. But honestly, I don't really regret it. I feel like for a while now, I've sort of been held back by my motivation to upload consistently. Like previous years, all I did was make fucking YouTube videos. And I didn't really have a lot of time or drive to really do anything else. So having a year like 2024 was kind of something I really needed. And yeah, this video probably could have come out a little sooner. I wanted to get this out closer to New Year's and a little further away from St. Patrick's Day, but rumors are beginning to spread that 2025 is the year of Aiden L. I truly feel like I'm back and honestly better than ever. I feel like I look at this channel in a new light now. And now that it's going to be 10 years old this August, I really feel compelled to make this year the best one yet. I have some really big fun stuff planned for this year that I truly want to make. And I really feel like if it all comes to fruition, this could be one of the most diverse, different, and exciting years this channel's ever seen. So if you haven't already, subscribe and stay tuned. Okay. Video's over. Go home.